Today, we're going to talk about a great topic, the why of money, change or become irrelevant. Eric has written a fabulous book that I highly recommend for all of our leaders in mortgage lending to read. Eric has had a long career and is well known within our industry. He is currently Chief Revenue Officer at NEXA, and prior to that has had a series of significant leadership positions. Hi, Eric. Eric, I'm thrilled to talk to you today. As usual, this will be a fabulous interview because your book is so important in our industry. It should be a must have for all of our originators and leaders because I think you put everything in really such a fabulous way. I want to talk in particular today about change or becoming irrelevant. So let's start off with what does it mean to be, in essence, irrelevant today in our business world? We'll get into the mortgage space in a second, but why do you think it's urgent now more than ever?
Well, everything's sped up, right? Like
Mhm.
AI. In my earlier entrepreneur days, I used to say, technology doubles every year, right? Every 12 months,
Yep.
technology's doubled, right? And so whatever you build today, 3 years from now, or 5 years from now, it's going to be obsolete if you don't keep
Hmm.
updating it, upgrading it, building on
Sure.
it, right?
Hmm.
And then it went to technology's doubling every 6 months, technology's doubling every 3 months, technology's doubling every 30 days, technology's doubling every week.
Hmm.
With AI, like I can't scroll, I can't open an email, I can't do anything with it. Hey, the latest AI just dropped. And it's just like I
Yeah.
just I just adopted this other thing yesterday.
Yeah.
Like what do you mean what do you mean the thing I adopted yesterday is now obsolete a day
Hmm.
later? Yeah, oh
Hmm.
yeah, ChatGPT's obsolete. You got to use Claude now because Claude's got this and it's like okay. That doesn't mean you have to adopt AI at a nuclear
Hmm.
pace. That's not what I'm saying,
Sure.
right? But you have to adopt AI. Right? Like that's
So,
that. Like if you're not, if you're saying no, no, I'll wait on the sidelines and I'm just going to see who wins the battle, and I'm not going to learn in the meantime. I'm not
mhm.
going to adapt in the meantime. I mean, you're just not going to make it.
You're not right.
You're
Well,
just not
that
going to make
leads
it.
to my next question, which, and we've talked about this before, but maybe in your own career, in your own business life, what was the moment where you realized that you had to change, and if you didn't, you become irrelevant yourself?
Well, I think for me, I had a very unique childhood, and I think that was taught to me by my grandfather
Hmm.
early on. We owned a chain of drugstores, and my grandfather was kind of the figurehead. And being in the stores, working in the stores at a very young age, I was 6 years old, breaking boxes, putting stuff on shelves, and
Sure.
I was 8 years old. I was a part-time stock boy, and right, and so changing the stores was just part of the culture. You had to constantly change the
Mm-hmm.
stores because you wanted your customers walking and seeing different things because it had to be unique. It's kind of like what Costco does, right? Like you never really
Yeah.
know what Costco's going to have. Like you kind of do, but you don't because there's always
Good
that
point.
new thing on the end cap. It's like, oh, look, I didn't know they had that. And so that change is what brings you back every week, every week, every week because you don't really know what's going to be there this week. Plus the food, right? You get you get
The free
the
food. Yeah.
tester, yeah. Yeah. And so in business, and you and I've talked about this, but businesses that don't change, like Kodak and Blockbusters, and right,
Sure.
like what happens to them? They become irrelevant, and that applies in all things. Like imagine, and I'm not a parent, so I can't give anybody parental advice. At the same time, if you have kids, are you the same or do you
Hmm.
have to change? Right? You
Hmm.
can't be static in life,
Right.
right? You get married, you have to change. You have kids, you have to change, right? Your kids go to school, you have to change. Your kids go to high school, you have to change. Your
Hmm.
kids start a
Hmm.
new sport, you have to change. Your business evolves. Your people on your team evolve, and you have to be able to change with it, and it's a struggle. I
It's
struggle
not
with it
easy.
every single day. Like it's not just because I talk about it doesn't mean, oh, I've mastered change. No, I resist it just the same as everybody else. It makes me
Yeah.
crazy, but I've learned to put things on top of it that make it required. It's like exercise, right? Like
Hmm.
I don't know that anybody enjoys exercise. We enjoy the result of exercise. And
Hmm.
so change, I don't enjoy change. I enjoy the result of change. And so just focusing on it that way.
So when you look at the world of mortgage banking, so let's kind of jump into that one. And I used to do the tracking of the top 10 companies every 10 years. And no surprise that there were always new companies. And
Mhm.
so, and it was never the same. It didn't matter basically what decade you're talking about. And so, when you think about that, what are some of the signs of a company becoming irrelevant?
Losing its best people.
Wow,
Now, to me, that's the number one, right? It's not about losing people, it's losing your
your
best people,
best.
right?
Hmm.
And so what I've learned about growing a company is you have your core group, right?
Hmm.
Like if you're starting your own mortgage broker company, let's just say I'm Eric Mitchell, I'm going to start my own mortgage broker company. I'm going to hire a processor, a loan coordinator, or whatever.
Hmm.
And there's the three of us or the four of us against the world, right? That's my core.
Hmm.
And then we start hiring people for the company. We hire HR and compliance, right? And so that's my fringe core around
Yeah.
my core. How many of my fringe core can I get indoctrinated into the core?
Hmm. Hmm.
Right? Like I need you living, eating, breathing the team, right? And some will and some won't. But the
Hmm.
more I can build the core, the more I can build the fringe. And then I take that fringe and I indoctrinate them into the core, and then I
Right.
build more fringe. Because you're always going to have a revolving door of some people, right?
Correct.
And the bigger the company, the bigger the revolving door. And it's just humans. That's just the way it is. But the moment I start losing core people,
Hmm.
now I got a big problem. Something's way, 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 way off if my core people start leaving. And so when you look at companies that lose, their national executive vice president of, right, their chief revenue officer
Hmm.
of, their, right, when those people start carving off, that's a sign something's wrong.
So when you look at the core, this will have to do another podcast because this is a great topic unto itself. So is core the best performers, the top performers, or is it the early believers? In other words, it can look different at different companies.
Yeah, early believers are great, but I don't,
Mhm.
thank you for believing in the vision, but if you're not good at your job,
Yeah,
you're not in the
right,
core, right?
right,
Like there's a
right.
minimum performance expectation for you to be at the core, and
Hmm.
you have to set
Hmm.
your standards of, right? And people
Hmm.
have to perform above those standards to remain
Hmm.
in the core group. But when you have somebody who's incredibly talented and skilled and performs well,
Right,
and you don't create new opportunities for them, they're going to leave. The ones that stay are the sub performers,
correct,
right? When say, oh,
correct.
my people, they're
Hmm.
loyal till death. Your sub performers are loyal till death.
Correct.
Your most talented people will leave you when there's no opportunities.
Well, that's a fabulous point because I don't think lenders get it that in our industry, especially, is that we don't really develop folks. We don't develop people. And so that we're left with the talented people need that next achievement level. And are they going to get it? And sometimes managers, I don't know that, or senior leadership don't recognize that you have to develop even your core group.
It's interesting in sales. One of the videos that stands out in my mind was Simon Sinek did a video about
Hmm.
the Navy SEALs and
Hmm.
their trust versus ability
Hmm.
grid,
Hmm.
right? And so salespeople get promoted when they have really high ability, but
Hmm.
you don't really need to be that trustworthy as long as you're performing at a high level. Whereas
Correct.
Navy
Hmm.
SEALs, they'd rather
Hmm.
have somebody who's trustworthy and will teach you the ability,
Hmm.
right? We'll
Yeah.
scale you from an ability standpoint, we can teach that, but I can't
Yeah.
teach you to be a good human.
Yeah.
And you see all these companies where they promote their best salespeople to be sales managers, leaders of people, but
Right.
is that person a good person?
Yeah.
They might be great at selling, they might be able to rack up numbers, but does that make them a good person? Does that make them a good
Hmm.
leader? And what are you doing to nurture their leadership ability, not their sales ability?
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
those are two different
Yeah. Oh,
activities, two
yeah.
different skill
Yeah.
sets,
I'm with you
right?
on that topic, and I see it all the time. And
Yeah, I'm
so,
sure you do.
yeah, for sure. And
It's
so,
notorious in the mortgage space.
yes, and I
Absolutely.
think
All over.
that's the black hole of the mortgage space. Is that's
It's a
ultimate.
challenge for sure.
It's yeah. And so when we look at successful people, are they more willing by definition to change? Or is it that, in other words, they're just more willing to learn? Because you talk about in your chapter about you have a responsibility to learn. Talk about that from your viewpoint.
Well, responsibility to yourself, certainly responsibility to your team, responsibility to your
Mm-hmm.
family, right? Like one of the things I try to do my best with is I'm loyal to my family first, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not loyal to the company first. I'm loyal to my family.
Right.
Now, what does that mean? How do I define that? Well, I define it as I have a responsibility to go out in the marketplace and be as valuable as I can in the marketplace, to come
Mm-hmm.
home for dinner with my family with the biggest paycheck possible while helping people,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But valuable comes from I know something that
Mm-hmm.
they don't,
Mm-hmm.
which means I learned it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so if you're not learning, if you're
Right.
not adapting, right, then how are you valuable?
Mm-hmm.
Like some people say, well, I'm valuable because I'm good at relationships. Right? I hear that sometimes, right? And I just
Yes.
that's my reaction. Oh, so you're broke.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just announced to me with big flashing lights, you're broke.
You're broke,
Because
right?
how are you managing relationships in business if you're not valuable?
Yeah. Well,
Like you could be likable, and that's a good trait. People want to do business
yes.
with people who are
Right.
likable, and I get it. But if you're likable but not uniquely valuable, then you're always going to be struggling with money, always.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's
And
what I
how are
like.
you uniquely valuable if you're not learning new things?
Right. In other words, when you talk about it, which I think this is, I have to say, it's one page 65 that I have memorized because I think it's a very, it puts it in a simplistic way, but in an important way about you, in other words, have a responsibility to yourself to build on this component of learning, and you talk about what you need to know and you go through it. So maybe talk to our listeners about that.
Well, if you're watching this and you're in the mortgage space, you're a loan officer, right? I'll
Right.
give you an example that you've probably run into. You're
Hmm.
doing business with a real estate agent. The real estate agent says something like, "Well, I used to be a loan officer, so I know how mortgages work."
Yeah.
Well, if you're so good at it, why'd you leave?
Yeah, yeah,
Right? Like if you
yeah,
know everything there is to know about mortgages,
yeah.
then you should have been making millions of dollars. You never would have left. The reason you left mortgages is because you didn't know what you needed to
You're
know.
right.
You weren't successful at it, and so you left.
Yeah,
So right away, I'm dealing with somebody who sees no value in learning new or
correct.
educating themselves. Like I already know that about this person because of that statement. And so what I've also learned is there are people in this world that are very good at changing people. Like I
Hmm.
think about Renee Rodriguez, you, right, coaches
Sure.
that are very good at I can help you go to that
Hmm.
next level. And I've learned about myself that I don't have that same temperament.
Hmm.
I find that I'm good at presenting. I'm good at creating information, creating value, but getting someone to do something with it, right? That's where my patience is not
Sure.
where it could be because, we'll agree, hey, you're going to do this one thing by next Friday, and then next Friday you're going to tell me why you didn't get it done because your dog ate your homework, and I was so busy. So busy it was a
Yeah,
10-minute task. An
right.
entire week you couldn't find 10 minutes. Well, Eric, you got to understand. No, I don't. I really don't need to understand. Like you're just not motivated enough. And that's okay too. Doesn't make you a bad human. Doesn't mean you don't get to vote in the elections. It doesn't mean like we all have the same, from a human value standpoint. You're just not valuable in the marketplace. You're not trying to be valuable in the
Hmm.
marketplace. If you're not able to do what you said you were going to do, the task was 10 minutes, you didn't do it. I choose to believe you that you're not motivated. That's okay. And
Hmm.
so, a lot of people get offended by that. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you, but
Yeah,
you're probably offended because there's truth in that.
yeah. Well, I have to say I'm becoming more like you because I don't have the patience either.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, when
don't
it
come.
happens so frequently, right? When
Yes,
people like
yes.
I'm
Yeah.
dealing with a loan officer right now, and I was showing him how to create a link tree, right? Go to linktree.com, it's free. Here's how you do it. You copy
Hmm.
mine. He says, "Oh my God, this is amazing. I'm going to do it this weekend." Right? I waited, I think it was like the following Wednesday, hadn't heard from him, right? And, I was going to do it over the weekend, Eric, but I got pulled into the thing, and but it's Wednesday. Like, what'd you do
Well,
Monday night, Tuesday night? Like it's a 10-minute task. Like, what are you
yeah,
doing?
right.
And they're oblivious. And so, like, if you can't do that, then you're not going to adopt AI. You're not going to adopt technology. You're
No,
not like there's things that are far more difficult than that,
right.
like adopting a CRM for your daily activities, integrating your calendar from your CRM to your Outlook so that you're living and running your entire daily activities from
Hmm.
your calendar. Like those are things that require discipline and more thought and time,
Hmm.
right? But if you can't create a free link tree in 10 minutes, okay, you're too busy for that. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Don't know how to
Well,
help.
I'm with you on that one. I say don't come back to the next class. So that's what I say. So, because sometimes what we perceive as a training issue is not a training issue, and
They're just not motivated. Yeah, they're
well,
just not.
yeah, and the lenders, instead of addressing it many times, will let it go on its own little path. When the fact of the
Yeah,
matter is, the reality is that that person's not going to do a return on investment for you, is what it boils down to. So no, I see
yeah,
it
they
all the
won't
time.
implement anything you teach
They
them. So
they want,
teaching them
yeah,
spends. There's no value in teaching them
yeah.
anything because they won't do anything with it.
They won't do any, well, they won't even do the part that's in the class. So that's the hard parts, or the easy part for sure. And so that kind of leads to this issue. And you talk about it in this chapter in particular about behaviors. In other words, I think people do know what they need to do, but there's a gap between knowing and actually changing behaviors. And so that's what you're talking about now, but talk some more about that. In other words, I do find the loan officer world that sometimes they will say they know what to do, but they actually, the behavior part is what you're talking about, doesn't happen.
Yeah, well, I find most of what is most valuable in my daily activities requires discipline. Checking my calendar, controlling my calendar. When somebody says, "Well, Eric, I just need to talk to you for 5 minutes. Here's my calendar link. Book five." Like you and I have each other's calendar links, right? Like
Sure.
we go on the calendar, we look because we know
Yeah.
path of least resistance. I'll just schedule a time. It's fine. But when somebody
Hmm.
says, "No, I'm not going to schedule, just call me." Okay, so what you've announced to me is that you don't value your time or my time.
Right. Right.
Right? And so now I'm reacting urgently to somebody who doesn't value time. And if you don't
Hmm.
value time, that means you aren't disciplined, you don't have systems, you're not going anywhere. So why would I stop what I'm doing to invest time and energy into someone who doesn't value time and energy? Like why
Hmm.
would I do that? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
But how many loan officers think that way? They think, "Oh my God, it's
Right.
urgent because this person's yelling loudest."
Yes. Right.
Right? It's
Right.
like, no, no, that's not how you should be running your business. But
Yeah.
it's hard to get someone to understand that you have to stay disciplined, right? You have to say no. My biggest word I say almost all day long is no, no. But Eric, no, that's not
Yeah.
how this works, right? You're in my world now, right? Here's how it's going to work. Like, can you imagine going to a five-star restaurant and walking into the kitchen and say, "Okay, chef, here's what we're going to do tonight." No, that's his world. That's his or hers. That's
Yeah.
their kitchen. That's their, you would never do that,
Yeah.
right? And so if I'm the loan officer and I'm dealing with a client and a realtor, you're in my world.
Hmm.
We're not doing it your way. You do this three times in a lifetime.
Hmm.
I do it, 5 times a day. Like,
Hmm.
no, you're
Hmm.
you're doing it my way. Here's how it's going to work, and here's what's in it for you, and here's why this is going to create a better experience, and here's why I care enough, and I say this all the time, I care enough to be unreasonable. I'm unreasonable. Like I'm
Hmm.
not bending into your way. You're gonna bend into my way because this is
Hmm.
what creates a good experience.
Well, this is a terrific point because I agree with you 100%, and certainly I do see it. And maybe that's the difference. One of the differences between the better performers versus the others is that they are willing to say no. Is that
It's a hard word,
it's a hard word.
especially if you're a people pleaser.
Yes, if you're a people pleaser,
Oh my
which,
God,
yeah, right.
super hard.
Yeah, because
I was talking to a realtor today, and they're in a multiple offer situation. The realtor said, "Oh, I'm just going to give away some of my commission to get the deal done." And it's like that's your first response. That's your first reaction. I'm going to give
right.
away some of my commission to get the deal, brother. I love you, man, but that's the people pleaser in you, right? Like
Yes.
let's think strategically. So you've submitted a 30-day offer. The client's incredibly strong. We can close way faster. Change it to a 14-day closing because the property's vacant. But don't give away your commission. You should change it to 14-day close instead of a 30-day close.
Sure.
It's like, oh, that's
Sure.
it. There we go.
Yeah.
Right. And I just saved the realtor 1% out of their 3% commission. Right. Like,
But it does raise a question, which that I see all the time also, is that companies tend to hire people pleasers under the relationship driven component versus recognizing, yeah, that that's not part of what selling is today. And so we need more than that. And if you're
yeah.
not confident in yourself to say, no, that I have value my time, then learning your products and coming out with another product is not going to answer the problem.
Yeah, I mean, being a people pleaser is fine if you're in customer service,
If you're in customer
right?
service,
If I go to
correct.
Target and I'm going
Yeah.
to return something, I want that person behind the counter to be a people pleaser. I want them to smile at me, and I'm returning X, Y, and Z because of X, Y, and Z, and
Hmm.
like I want to have a good experience. And it'd be great if that person was a people pleaser, right?
Right.
That's a good example of that. But if you're in sales, right, you want to be likable, but you also need to have boundaries. Like here are the boundaries, and here's why it's in your best interest that I have these boundaries. Like they're
Correct.
not just for my best interest. You
Hmm.
know, like I say it all the time. Look, I'm striving for a 5-star review. Now, the only way I'm going to get a 5-star review is if I earn it, right? Like you're not just
Hmm.
going to give it to me for the
Hmm.
sake of it. Now, the way I earn it is I'm going to give you a fabulous experience by doing it my way. If I do it your way, I'm going to get a 1-star experience. I don't want to do that.
That really is one of the differences that certainly I think so many people in in the mortgage world, the loan officer world, think that caving in is the answer to actually getting a five star.
They don't know what the alternative is.
Yes, they don't.
So
Is there
it's a race to the bottom with commissions,
right?
um, because they don't know how to be valuable instantly.
Right. It's being valuable. You need to write another book on that one because that's true. That's I see that all the time, and this is the part where the industry believes that if we hire enough bodies that have some version of what's important, like a people pleaser component, a customer service component, that's why we have so many that underperform because we tolerate it and we hire that, and that's not really,
Yes.
obviously smart.
So one of the things I use as an example of people pleaser versus somebody who's
Hmm.
not a people pleaser is a processor.
Yeah.
I don't want a people pleaser processor. I don't want
No.
that because what
Correct.
I want is a processor who has obsessive compulsive disorder,
Yeah.
right? Because then I know my file is going to go in underwriting perfect. But somebody who has obsessive compulsive disorder is grumpy. They're
Right.
correlated, right?
Hmm.
Because loan officers make them crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
there's
right.
ADHD. You can't take an application. You can't get me the documents I need. Like everything's, hurry up and wait. Like, oh my God,
Yeah.
can't you just, for God's sakes, right? And so an OCD processor is
A
angry
good
most of the
process.
time,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? They're grumpy.
Yeah.
And so when I talk to a processor and they're curt and they're short and oh, I like you. I
I
don't want to, oh,
approve of
hi,
what
how
it.
are you? How's your, oh, I already know my files are going into underwriting half. I already know. Right?
How
Like
true.
it's not what I want.
Yeah.
If my processor is submitting files one touch files, I will send you a foot massager in the from Costco. Put water and give yourself a foot massage while you're doing your files. Like God bless you. Like thank
Yeah.
you. I'll bonus you out whatever. One touch files. But to do
Hmm.
that means OCD heavy.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. It is funny what you're saying, but it's so true. And I
Yeah, I
see it a
don't want a
lot.
happy processor.
No, I want
I
somebody. Yeah,
don't.
yeah. So let's talk about, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but if looking at this, and you've dealt with, you've managed and certainly been successful at certainly the sales side in all parts of our business. What are the couple of changes that should someone make to stay relevant? If you had to kind of list, like, if you want to be relevant in 2026, what does that really kind of look like if you want to be successful?
Well, I think that's a different answer depending on what role you are,
Hmm.
right? If you're an underwriter, it's a different
Oh,
answer.
that's
If it's
different,
a
right?
loan officer, different answer. If you're a
Sure.
CEO, it's a different answer. I let's approach it from a loan officer standpoint.
Yes. Hmm.
So, from a technology standpoint, and I don't mean to be mean or crass about this, but if you're not using a CRM
Hmm.
in your daily activities to manage your business and calendar and activities and everything, if you're not aggressively using a CRM, you're not going to make it.
Hmm.
That's it. You're just not going to make it. Like, there's no chance of you surviving
Right.
this
But,
technology onslaught.
but
And so the first thing I would say is master a CRM. Pick a CRM. I'm not here to sell a CRM. Pick a CRM, master it. Because if you don't, there's no way for you to grow. There's no way for you to scale. No way for you to have team. No way for you to be valuable in the marketplace. There's no mechanism.
hmm
If you're not prepared to do that, then the AI and all the rest of it
yeah, it's not going to
doesn't mean
happen.
anything. Like you're not
Right.
going to do anything with it. So
Hmm.
adopting all that stuff will have no
Sure.
value.
So is there, in other words, there's lots of CRMs. I'm just curious kind of what you see one that really does help a loan officer.
Well, the one that really stands out to me is Go High Level is just dominating, and so there's so many master users now that sell souped up versions of Go High
Hmm.
Level. I don't want to mention names because I don't
Sure.
want to
No, I know. I
promote them, but
understand
there's
that.
lots
Sure.
of them.
Yes.
But man, Go High Level really soup to nuts does
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
everything. I don't care if you're doing Facebook ads or client
Hmm.
follow-ups or text
Hmm.
message campaigns or whatever. Like
Hmm.
it seems to have a tool for all of it, all in one place.
So, as no surprise to you, as I can tell you from my experience, not many loan officers really manage their CRM.
That's correct. I think it's like
Correct.
90% of loan officers don't
They
use a daily
don't.
CRM.
No,
Like it's
they
like
don't.
90%. It's incredible.
No, I see it all the time, and it's they don't work the former customers either. So I mean, like,
Well, how would you work your former customers if
I
you don't know who they are because you don't have a
know.
CRM?
That's true. They just ignore it. That's for sure. So anyway, so talk about the leadership role in driving change, because we talked about the individual side of it, but at the leadership, being relevant and being basically change orientated, if the company themselves aren't involving, and it's more than technology, that's for sure. And so what are your thoughts about the role of leadership in encouraging like a change environment?
Well, if you're a CEO, right, your job is to paint the vision of the company, paint the culture of the company, and
Hmm.
then hold the standard. No, I've never met anybody that cares how hard a CEO works. What
True.
people care about is the quality of their decisions, right? And so if you're like, I think Jeff Bezos says that on a good day, he makes two decisions, right? On a good day. That's a busy
Hmm.
day. I made
Sure.
two
Hmm.
firm decisions today,
Hmm.
right? Because he puts a lot of thought into making those decisions. And so as a CEO, it's just what's the quality of your decisions?
Correct.
And so you need to recuperate. You have a lot of stress and that's fine, right? But so you need to go do yoga and take a couple of vacations a year and you need to have good home
True.
balanced family life. You got to have a good relationship with your kids and like that's all important because otherwise you're coming to work and you're making bad decisions, right? You're gruff, you're rough,
Hmm.
you don't want to be that polarizing personality,
Hmm.
right? Think of it like politics or religion or whatever, right?
Sure.
Like if you're talking about politics, half the people hate you.
It's a
I don't care
given.
what side, I don't care what your opinion is. I don't care
No,
what
right.
side you're on.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, half the people don't like you, right? And so
Hmm.
you don't want to run a company that way. You don't want to half
Hmm.
your company not liking you. And
Hmm.
so you have to be very careful about what is your culture, what is your vision, paint it carefully, what's in it for everybody to be a part of it. Make sure
Hmm.
your core people have a
Hmm.
very clear understanding what's in it for them to be a part of the core.
Hmm.
What's the exit strategy? Like whenever I hear a CEO goes, "Oh, I don't have an exit strategy," then why would good people stay?
Yeah. Right.
But I'm just going to work until I die. That's the vision you're painting for me, and with no exit strategy. Like what?
Mhm.
Like
Good point.
how's that valuable to me, right? And
Hmm.
you'll have people stay, just not your best people. They're not going to
Right.
stay.
Yeah, good point. Well, it's just like when they were, basically Apple's a perfect example when they were trying to bring back different executives at different times. Do you want to work at Coca-Cola your whole life? Which is one of the famous lines that Steve Jobs said to, I forget the guy's name, but basically, yeah, it's that issue. That's what people are buying for sure. So if you look at, and I know we've had this conversation before, but if you look at the famous 3 to 5 years out, what does irrelevance look like from your viewpoint?
Well, I can tell you that we're already rolled out, the ability for consumers to originate their own loans, right?
Right.
Like that's not in the future.
That's
That's
now.
now. It's
Right.
now. Right now, it's
Hmm.
just about behavior adoption and consumers and who's going to win that race, right? Now,
Hmm.
does that mean all loan officers are going to be out of business? No, 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 no. What it means because you still have a licensing requirement, right? The loan has to close in a loan officer's name. There's a NMLS license
Hmm.
attached to it, right? So it's not like, oh, we don't need loan officers. No, no,
Hmm.
that's not what it means. But like instead of an underwriter underwriting 2 loans a day, they'll be able to underwrite 20 loans a day,
Correct.
right? And then 40
Hmm.
loans a day. And that's the same amount of time, but just using technology differently,
Correct.
right?
Hmm.
So as a loan officer, if I can have no manpower in clean mortgages, right? So rate and term refi, 800 FICO
Sure.
score, 60% loan to value, 12
Hmm.
debt ratio, right? Like it's the easiest loan in the history of the universe.
Hmm.
So Why can't I go to Google HR department and roll out a mortgage program for all Google employees, right?
Hmm.
Here's your Google website, do your own mortgages, right? I'm going to undercut the market by 200 basis points because I'm not touching the files,
I'm not touching files,
right?
right?
And now
Hmm.
I'm closing 500 loans a week as a loan officer
Right.
with no manpower.
Correct.
But I'm a loan officer. I'm out in the marketplace, creating value in the marketplace, closing lots of loans, but I'm using technology differently to close a lot more loans in the same amount of time.
Hmm.
So instead of making 250 basis points on the loans, I might make 50 basis points on the loans, but I'm
Hmm.
not touching them.
Right.
So, right. And so maybe I approach Costco and say, hey, I'd like to roll out a national mortgage program at
Hmm.
all in margin at 50 basis points. Here's what it takes to qualify. Boom, boom, boom. And Costco rolls it out on their website, and you're
Yeah.
closing
Hmm.
9,000 mortgages a month, affiliated with Costco.
Correct.
Right. And so it's not a matter of is it coming? It's coming. It's
It's
here
right.
now.
It's here now. Right.
Right. And if you're saying, well, yeah, I'm not going to adopt a CRM, well,
You're not in the game.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, for
you're not
sure.
in the game. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the basic fundamental minimum requirement.
Yeah.
You're not even creating value at that point. You're just performing at the minimum requirement
Right.
that when
Right.
I ask loan officers like how are you uniquely valuable? There's three answers it can't be, which is price, product, and service. You
Yep.
can't talk about I have better rates. There's one Fannie
Hmm.
Mae, there's one Freddie Mac, there's one FHA, one B. Like you don't have better rates. Don't stop it.
Hmm.
You don't have better service,
Hmm.
right? Like you think you do, right? But there's somebody out there that's got better service,
Yeah.
right? And you got the same products I got,
Hmm.
right? So the moment you say any of that is unique, what you're announcing is you don't know what you're doing. And so
Right.
how are you unique? And the metaphor I use with people is a grocery store. Hey Pat, I just opened a brand new grocery store down the street from you. I'd love for you to check it out. We sell milk. No, no, no. We got 2%, 1% skim. I got cottage cheese. We never run out. It's amazing. You got to come check out the grocery store. Sounds silly, right? Because I'm not coming to your grocery store because you sell milk. I expect you to sell milk.
Correct. Right.
That's not a unique value proposition. Well, in mortgages, I expect you to have good rates. I expect you to have good service. I expect you to,
Correct.
to have
Hmm.
products.
Hmm.
None of that is a reason for me to come to you. Give me a unique value proposition that's going to capture my attention that nobody else says. And if you
Yeah.
don't have that, hey, start there, right? You
Hmm.
need to build one
Right.
that has nothing to do with price, product, or service.
I agree. I agree with you, but I have to say, when you look at that premise, which is, I think, really where we're at as an industry, it is counter to hiring warm bodies and hoping that masses will basically make that difference. What you need are better people, is what you need. I mean, that's
Well,
it.
I would say you need better systems first.
Hmm.
If you create better systems, then
Right.
you
You
can
get better.
put good people into a
Right.
system situation. But if you have no systems, you're just throwing bodies at problems. They're
Yeah.
just going to bounce off the problems. They're not going to fix the problems.
Not going to fix the problem. Well, I could talk to you for hours on this topic because I think you're right on. You need to do another book. I think this book is really fabulous, and I love the chapter on the change or irrelevance because I think it's really where we're at as an industry for sure. Is there any takeaways that you would like to share today?
Yeah, I would say change can create stress, right? I know it
Hmm.
does in me when it's time for me to change something, right? I find
Hmm.
it's stressful. And so if you're needing to change, and the reason I wrote the book is understand like why are you changing? Why do you want to earn more money?
Right.
Why do you want to be valuable in the marketplace? And that's the deep dive. Because once you understand your why, once you understand what's
Hmm.
my driving purpose, then the change becomes easier, right? Because I'm driving towards the
What's
thing that
important?
means the most to me.
Correct.
Therefore, the cost of the change is worth it.
Hmm.
And if you don't have a clear understanding of your why, then you're probably going to be on a treadmill or a hamster wheel
Yeah.
for most
Yeah.
of your career.
Yeah. Well, I highly recommend, Eric's book. He's already mentioned it. My students love it. So I have to tell you, they even call you up to talk about it, which I think is a high compliment for
Great.
sure for any author. And I really think that it says in really bottom line terms what we're really talking about today. So, Eric, how can people get a hold of you? And if they want to talk more about it, I know you're open to talking to them because I
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Eric-Mitchell.com. I think we all get paid based on the quality of our conversations and the quality of our
yeah,
interactions. So yeah,
yeah,
Eric, ERIC-Mitchell.com. You can see it right on my screen here, Eric-Mitchell.com. All my information is right there.
yeah.
Would love to to connect.
Yeah. Well, I think you need to write another book. So I'm going to be pushing you to write another book because I
Yes,
think
ma'am.
that you really have done a
Well, you're
fabulous
very
job with this.
persuasive, so I would imagine I'm probably going to be writing a
Well,
second
maybe
book.
we'll write it together. So
There
what
you
about
go.
that one? So because you're hitting all the topics, but no, I think it's fabulous what you're saying. And it needs to be said more because I think the industry is struggling with really fundamentally change is
No
ultimately
question.
the,
No question we are.
yeah. Well, I want to thank you for sharing everything today with us. And certainly for our listeners, contact Eric. He has a lot to say that I think is very helpful and insightful in our industry. And certainly listen to our podcast. We come out with a new one every Monday. So thanks again, Eric.
Thank you, Pat.
Check out my new book, Mortgage Manager Mastery, where 23 mortgage sales leaders shared their best practice in managing sales staff. The book is available on Amazon in Kindle or paperback.